Hello, my name's Ben.
And my name's Josh.
Welcome back to FPL Graduates and welcome back to another video. In this video, we're going to be going through some of the goalkeepers in FPL, having a look at who we think you should be targeting in your teams. There's a few good ones, there's a few really high ownership ones, there's a few hidden gems as well. So let's get straight into the video.
Okay, then. So, getting into the video, we're going with David Raya first, the joint most expensive goalkeeper in the game at 5.5 million, the same price as what he was last year. Me and Ben both started with him in Gameweek 1 last year as well. It'll be an interesting pick. Obviously, 18% of managers have gone with him already. I think the biggest benefit for him is that you're getting into that Arsenal defence at a cheaper price than the likes of Gabriel and Saliba. And obviously, you've still secured the minutes with 3,420. He played every single game, full 90 minutes last season for Arsenal. Will that change with Kepa? I personally don't think so. I think he'll be mainly used as a cup keeper, probably, more so than not. 13 clean sheets was the joint most in the league last season. They're an unbelievable defence. But is his ceiling not very high, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, you can argue that the ceiling maybe isn't so high, but the main reason that you'd bring him in is because of the price point compared to other Arsenal defenders, rather than the price point compared to other keepers in FPL, which is the interesting sort of like way to think about it. But again, it's a logical way of thinking, right? How can I get into this Arsenal defense that has been so good in the last couple of seasons and try and get value out of it? The other 5.5 million defenders from Arsenal don't provide the same minute security that David Raya does. So there's an element that is the big benefit. And we've seen when David Raya, picks up a clean sheet. Arsenal have struggled in last season to score a lot of goals in games. He generally a few saves and he's all of a sudden quite high up in the bonus. So there's high potential, especially with the changes to the bonus point system with saves inside the box and outside the box, that a clean sheet could see more bonus points for David Raya. We'll just have to wait and see, and I do think he can keep up to an extent with maybe Saliba. Gabriel's more difficult one because of that goal threat, but yeah, I think he provides great value there. Okay, so next up we've got Jordan Pickford. He's priced in at the same price as Raya at 5.5 million. Of course, got 12 clean sheets last year, which is just one behind David Raya as well, which is really interesting, with an attacking return in there as well. Pickford's been known over the years to get a couple of assists here or there from long punts down the pitch. Yeah, again, like he's playing for Everton, who are a worse team, but he is producing more saves per 90. He is getting a couple of penalty saves a season. So, as a season keeper, will provide a bit of value. For me, I'm sort of just of the opinion that I'd rather, if I was spending 5.5, spend it on a team of a top four team, say, with sort of a bit more security on clean sheets, etc., rather than sort of Everton. But I'd see the reason why people would go for him. Josh, what are your thoughts on Pickford? Are you sort of which side of the sort of coin are you with it?
Yeah, I think he does. Like, obviously, he's been a top goalkeeper scorer for the last 2 years. So there is a reason why he's 5.5 million now. Um, I do sort of agree with what you're saying. Like 5.5 just feels a bit too much, which is a good price point to have because if he was five, I think everyone would have jumped on him. So yeah, for me, I feel like he has a much higher ceiling than David Raya. Obviously, he averages over 3 saves per game, which is great. He's got a couple of penalty saves in him. He's also got that long punt, like you say. I think I owned him for his assist last season, which was unreal. So yeah, I really do like him as an option. I think from game week 1, you could do far worse. The fixtures there, the opening three, are really nice. Leeds away, Brighton at home, and Wolves away. So yeah, I like him. Would I prefer to probably get Tarkovsky or Branthwaite? I think I probably would, just for defensive contributions. And then also the goal threat, especially from like Tarkovsky. So yeah, it's a difficult one. I think you could probably spend 5.5 million, to be honest, better elsewhere, but we'll have to wait and see. Everyone's downplayed him for the last couple of years, and he's been the top point scoring keeper. Okay, then so we're going to drop down a price point and head into the fives. We're at Robert Sanchez right now, and obviously Chelsea, if you didn't know, were the third best defence last season in terms of expected goals conceded. So a really solid defence there. Probably, due to Sanchez in some regards, should have kept some more clean sheets. But towards the back end of the season and in the Club World Cup, he did look really solid. And I do not think that his place as number one is going to be sort of challenged too much, especially if it's just Jorgensen as the backup. So 13% ownership, people probably agreeing with me on that one. The fixtures to start for Chelsea are some of the better ones if you're looking for a long sort of run, which is really nice for them. So yeah, what's your thoughts on Ben? Obviously, the one penalty save, he maybe doesn't have a high ceiling, quite similar to David Raya in that sense, but 5 million to get into that defence, right?
Yeah, again, like it's a cheap price point to get into the Chelsea defence that was really good last season. You're buying more into the team than the actual player. Like Robert Sanchez as a keeper, I'm not the biggest fan of anyway. But the Chelsea defence I am, and I think that's where Robert Sanchez comes into his own. The saves per 90, not bad as well. So yeah, I think at that price point, again, very good value. Can't complain too much about that. You get a top four team, potentially a title challenging team keeper at 5 million, which I think is really important to take into context. Right, so next up, we've got Matz Sels from Nottingham Forest. Of course, we don't expect Forest to be as good as they were last season, but Sels got 13 clean sheets, which was pretty good. The saves per 90, again, pretty good for a keeper. And I think, again, like we said, the change of bonus point system, etc., could benefit someone like Sales going into this season. Ever present as well. We can't complain too much about that. So should present some really good value. Whether it's as good as Sanchez, we'll wait and see, but a good option nonetheless. Do you think the impact of sort of Forest playing European football will have an effect on the defensive numbers and the potential points output of Sales?
Yeah, I think so. I think also they really overperformed their data last season. Like 50 expected goals against is quite a lot when you compare it to David Raya, who I think had about 35. Like, and they kept the same amount of clean sheets. There's a big overperformance there. So yeah, I feel like that will sort of ease itself out a little bit. Obviously, he does come in cheaper than Milenkovic and Murillo, who do offer the defensive contributions. They're some of the best in the game in regards to that. So there is that saving there. You can get into the Forest defence in wing backs though with Nico Williams and Anya, who did provide good attack and threat last season. So yeah, it's a tough one for me. I think he is a decent pick in Gameweek 1. I can see why he's 18% owned because the fixtures there are really decent to start off out the gate. So it could be one of those where you get him for the game pre-Europe, and then maybe when you wildcard fairly early on, Gameweek 4, Gameweek 5, something like that, you then move on to a different keeper that's maybe a little bit more safer. Okay, then. So next up, we do have Nick Pope at 4% ownership at the moment. Obviously, there was a lot of speculation that James Trafford was going to join Newcastle United this summer, but he is on his way to Manchester City. So you'd imagine that means Nick Pope keeps his place as number one keeper at Newcastle. He didn't play all the games last year due to injury, but in the games he played, he did keep 8 clean sheets. He did manage to save a penalty, and he was averaging over 3 saves per 90, which does get you an extra point as well. Opening 3 fixtures, not the greatest, but not the worst. Obviously, the Leeds game does help things out in that regard. £5 million. Newcastle defensively have been historically under Eddie Howe pretty solid, Ben. Do you think that's a decent price?
Yeah, I think it's a decent price. I think the fact that he's not played all the minutes and not got all the points means he's probably stayed at that price point rather than being that little bit more expensive. I think good in terms of option, but there's that element of if Newcastle were in for another keeper, do they really see Pope as their number one going forward? So you just have to wait and see on that. There's that element of doubt in there, which I think will put off a lot of managers. But yeah, generally speaking, like that Newcastle defence should be fairly decent again this year. So yeah, like one that's I'm sort of on the fence with at the moment. Not the best option, but certainly not the worst either. Okay, so jumping down into the £4.5 million keeper, Petrovic is, of course, Bournemouth's new keeper who presents a very interesting option for FPL managers. We saw minutes from him last season in terms of sort of what he got. The save per 90 is the key stat here, 3.58. So fairly decent shot stopper, getting a few saves per 90, which is important. And in that Bournemouth team, who are fairly solid as a team and got a fairly decent defence. And like Josh said in Defender video, they lost Huijsen but got Zanetti, who was, the guy that was, number one before getting injured. So should be a decent option. I think presents one of the best value keepers of the video so far. Josh, what's your thoughts on Petrovic?
Yeah, I really like him. I thought he was decent when he was at Chelsea. He just needed a bit more experience, and he's got that now at Strasbourg. Sort of took the number one shirt at Bournemouth in the summer series game against Everton. He looked really commanding. Good distribution. Nothing to worry about really with him at the moment. Obviously, 10 clean sheets whilst also getting a saves per 90 of 3.6 is unbelievable. So if you were to replicate anything like that, that would be really good. Kepa last season as well was one of the highest point scoring goalkeepers as well, which is one thing to remember. Obviously, that Bournemouth defence is a different look compared to last season, so we've got to bear that in mind. But for me, I think he does provide really nice value. Obviously, game week 1 is annoying that he's obviously facing Liverpool away, but do you just take it on the chin, hope that they don't get slaughtered, and he could even pick up multiple save points in a game like that. So yeah, it's an interesting one to consider and definitely one of the better 4.5 options. Okay then, so we're going into Bart Verbruggen next. Obviously, Brighton last season defensively were not the best side. 7 clean sheets kept all season, which wasn't great. They have reinforced in that area though. Obviously, Goalkeeper has been signed. They've signed a few centre-backs as well, like Bascagli, and a few others I can't think of off the top of my head. Fulham at home, Everton away and City at home. I think the first two aren't too bad from a defensive point of view. Fulham aren't exactly full of goals, and Everton likewise, but it is the first game at their new stadium. The thing that worries me with Verbruggen is that the saves per 90 aren't great either. 2.5 is pretty low when you compare him to the rest of the keepers that we've spoken about in this video. Yeah, I think there are better options at 4.5. You could do the fixtures play and just hope that Brighton get one of those clean sheets against the opening two. But yeah, for me, probably not the best 4.5 unless we do see an uptick in those clean sheets from Brighton. What's your thoughts, Ben?
Yeah, I think he's going to be a solid keeper to rotate with, but if you're looking at sort of trusting a keeper for the season, then I'd look elsewhere really. I do think that Brighton will be stronger defensively, and 7 clean sheets still not horrendous. Of course, could be a lot better. So yeah, one of those where I think you're just going to have to wait and see how Brighton come out of the blocks. Like they could be defensively very sound, but again, they could be sort of the same sort of struggles as last year. Okay, so finally we got Kelleher from Brentford. Of course, the new keeper for him at 4.5 million, and a lot of hype surrounding him when he made that move, especially from an FPL perspective. With Brentford's changes, they certainly are going to be a weaker team, but we saw Flecken have so much success last season. He had the most saves out of any keeper inside the box in the Premier League last year, which is fantastic for Kelleher, from a playing style of Brentford, etc. I think he's going to be a good option. At 32% owned, it's quite high ownership. And if it goes wrong, which given the recruitment or sort of lack of sort of replacement to a high quality that Brentford have made, it concerns me a little bit. I can't lie. So in pretty much everyone's first draft, Kelleher was in there. I think we'll see that ownership drop off to around 20% by game week 1, because people will be put off by those unknown factors that are associated at the moment with Brentford.
Yeah, you've hit the nail on the head there, Ben. I think the ownership is the scary thing at the minute. 32%, I would steer clear as it stands. I think, yeah, if they were to take a battering against Forest or Villa, which is very probable with those teams able to do that, everyone will be trying to jump ship immediately. Obviously, Sunderland away in game week 3 is nice. But like you say, I do feel like they will concede a lot of shots again, no matter if they are improved or not. It's just the way that Brentford play. They're usually low XG opportunities as well, which is always a benefit to the goalkeeper. So I do see those saves per 90 creeping up. Obviously, he's playing in front of Virgil van Dijk and co at Liverpool, so I'd probably give the data on the right a little bit of a miss, because, yeah, it's not going to be a totally different ship when he goes in for the sticks for Brentford. Interesting choice, but unless his ownership drops by 50%, then yeah, I don't think I'll be entertaining that one.
Okay, so to wrap it up, here are my top 3 keepers. At number 3, I've gone with Matz Sels. I do think that Forest aren't going to be as good defensively, but I think Sales will still keep, the good amount of clean sheets and save points. Number 2, I've got David Raya because of the value that he presents going into that Arsenal defence. And number 1 for me is Sanchez. Given Chelsea the third best defence in the league last season, and he's priced at just 5 million, I feel like he is 0.5 underpriced, and therefore my number 1 for keepers. Josh, what's your sort of top 3 looking like?
Yeah, it's going to be, I'll go from the bottom to top. Petrovic comes in at number 3. I just think he provides the best value at 4.5. Obviously, it's a shame they've got Liverpool away first game of the season. It's arguably the worst fixture possible. But after that, I think you'll see some decent returns. I think Bournemouth will be looked down upon due to losing Kirkez and Huijsen. But I think they've got players in that squad that are more than good enough to replace them. So, yeah, more than happy to pick him number 3. Robert Sanchez, I totally agree with what you're saying. I think he is a little bit underpriced. The only caveat for that is that Levi Colwill is also 5 million, and you'd expect him to play a lot of minutes as well. So that's why he doesn't quite get top spot for me. Nick Pope does get it as it stands if he is number 1 come the start of the season, just because I feel like that Newcastle defence historically, more so than Chelsea, have been a really good defence for a longer period of time. So at £5 million, again, I do feel like he is slightly underpriced if they can sort of maintain that. Although when they did have Champions League last time, they did drop off a little bit. So we'll have to wait and see if that trend continues going into next season. Okay, then, so they are the best goalkeepers in our opinion for FPL this season. Let us know who your goalkeeper is at the moment in the comments. It's going to be an interesting one come Gameweek Run 1, right, Ben?
Yeah, I think there's going to be a lot of differences within everyone's teams, and especially in the keeper position, there's a lot of debate, and we usually see a real sort of starting to sort of over the next week or so see a bit of a template come to fruition. So we'll have to wait and see. I don't think there's going to be too much of a strong template this year because of how well everyone's priced. So yeah, as usual, please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. I've been Ben.
I've been Josh.
We'll see you guys
next video. Thanks for watching.
But I'm not going down with you. So you may rise, but you'll never make me wanna stick around you.